Hi guys, it's Dan from Shawe Physio, and in this video we're going to be talking all about these guys. So, foam rollers, massage balls, and also an honourable mention, I will put massage guns into this as well, into this little talk, this little discussion. Even though I don't have one with me right now, we don't have one here in this clinic, but for the benefits that these have, massage guns work a slightly different way, but they achieve a very similar outcome, have a very similar use. So I will mention that in this video about how they work. But yeah, we're going to be talking all about what we do with these, how we use them, because we've probably seen these. If you don't know what these are, you've probably seen them lying around in the corner of a gym, or you might even have one. Surprised how many people these actually have one. They get given them for Christmas, especially Christmas with January, getting in shape and whatnot, and they go, wow, amazing. What do I do with it? So that does happen a lot. Or people, you might be using one of these already, you might just be using it a little bit incorrectly. So we're just going to clear up some confusion, because I feel like there is a lot of confusion with these. I do feel like these get a lot of unjust criticism as well, and it's usually because they're being applied the wrong way. They're not being used the best way that they could, so to speak. So there is a use for these. There's some things these things are really good at. There's some things these are not so good at, and I'm just going to clarify and clear up and show you how we use that. Okay. So what these do, what these are primarily used for, is increasing mobility, increasing flexibility at a joint. Okay, so specifically used on muscles, can be used on joints as well. I might show you. Yeah, I'll show you in a later video where that can be used. But today I'll keep it on the primary focus, just so we don't go on too many tangents, because I like to do that. So yeah, mostly for addressing tissue dysfunction in the muscles. So muscles that are in a shortened position for a long period of time. So if you're someone who sits at a desk for 8 hours or longer, or if you're then in the car commuting, or train, wherever you are on the tube, in that seated position, your calves will get into an adaptively shortened position, so they'll start to tighten up. Okay, so when that happens, we will get these knots. So you might have felt like a muscle knot before, like in your back. You feel those sort of lumpy, sort of uncomfortable sort of little bumps. They all develop, and we call it a more scientific name that we call them is trigger points, and that's what we're treating when we're using these. So those trigger points in that muscle tissue will almost act as a bit like roadblocks. Was a really good way a colleague of mine described it, or another way I like to describe it is like a pin. So it's kind of pinning that muscle into a shortened position, or again like a roadblock. It's kind of keeping it in that tight position. And if you've got a trigger point present, say if you do have them in your calves, you've got tight calves, there's trigger points are in there, and you go to stretch your calves, maybe before you go for a run or play football, we'll get some short-term benefit, but because that trigger point hasn't been addressed, it will just bring it back into that shortened position. So we need to address the trigger point first before we stretch. And that's another good thing. So where do these fit in a program? Where do you slot them in? Is it before stretching or after stretching? Should I do it at the end after a workout? Before? What time of day should I do it? These are all good questions. Yeah, and again, that's what we're going to clear up. This would be the first thing you did. So if you was doing a mobility warm-up, or just a warm-up in general, this would be the first thing that you would do, because you want to address any dysfunction that you have, any sort of muscular dysfunction that you have, anything that's keeping those muscles in a shortened position. This would be the best thing to do first, to get rid of that knot, that trigger point, to remove that roadblock, that pin, so that when we go to do our other mobility techniques, namely our stretching, again, we can stretch it to a new length, and we can keep it there without it going back over time, because that trigger point's now gone. So this would be the first thing that you would do. Okay, so we'd always start here. And again, I'm going to show you how to use it. So let's say if your calves were short and they were in a tight position, okay, how I would use this. And again, this can be a bit of a confusing usually a bit of a confusing question that people get on how to use these. When you're using these, all you're doing, okay, is you're looking for a tender spot. Okay, so if I was doing my calves, I'm going to start. So my calf muscle comes from my Achilles. So I'm not going to go right onto my Achilles because that can be a little bit uncomfortable. I'm going to start about a third of the way up the back of my leg, and my calf muscles go into the back of my thigh bone. So they're going to go. Just going to go to just below my knee. So I'm going to have a little look through there. I'm going to go back and forth. I'm going to do that a couple of times, and I can also turn my leg inwards and outwards because my calf's it's actually a fairly broad muscle. Okay, so usually it's the outer half of the calf that tends to get quite short and develop these trigger points. And all I'm doing, I'm just going to look for the most tender spot. Once I've got that most tender spot, I'm just going to hold it there. I'm not going to move. Okay, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for those spots. Those are your trigger points. Nothing else. Now, some will feel worse than others, and you may have several of them. What I would say is go after the most uncomfortable one, or the one that you can manage. The next question is how much pressure do we put in? And again, this is another thing that gets a little confusing. So when we're trying to treat these trigger points, if we go in too hard, if we put too much pressure, we've got all different receptors in the muscle tissue that detect how much pressure is there. And if there's too much pressure, your body's got it's almost like a self-protective mechanism. If your body detects too much pressure, if someone was to stick their thumb really hard into you, as hard as they could, or their elbow, you naturally go, oh, you want to get away from them, because again, you're getting a feedback response from those tissues to tell your brain that something's stabbing me, it's really pushing it, it's not comfortable, so you try to naturally get away from it. What we need to do, we want to stimulate those receptors because we want to get those receptors to tell your brain that, oh, there's a bit of tension here, but we don't need it, so let's let it go. That's essentially what's happening. Let's calm it down. So we just want to stimulate those receptors just enough, for about 30 seconds up to about 2 minutes. Okay? It's usually around about a minute. It's usually not as long as 2 minutes. Usually about a minute. That will start to get those signals coming back from the brain. And it will actually tell that muscle to calm down and relax. And then we get that relaxation in that muscle, we get the removal of that trigger point. That trigger point tends to go away. There's a couple of different mechanisms on how that works. There's a couple of theories on this. The other theory is by kind of compressing that tissue, we're kind of taking the blood supply out of there, so we're starving it of oxygen, and that way it then tends to calm down by itself, essentially. So there's a couple of ways. I think it's probably a bit both of that is going on at once. So that's what we're trying to do. If you used to think of, so you think of your calf right now, it's a bit like a light bulb that's really like flashing. It's like almost like shaking, like it's going to explode. I'm not saying the calf's going to explode, it's not. Just to be clear on that, just as an analogy. So we have some muscles which are very, very short and overactive. In this case, it would be the calves, and we've got some muscles which are long, overstretched and underactive. That would be these muscles that are along the front of my shin. They're the opposite to my calf. And what we're trying to do with the foam roller, is by taking out those trigger points, we're actually reducing the activity there, because we're getting those trigger points and sending those signals up to our brains to tell us that this muscle is very kind of overactive. It's got this, it's very, what we say, tonic. It's just very active. It's the body wants to recruit it more readily than the other muscles, than say the shin muscles and other stabilised muscles. It's just calves. It's getting all the input from the brain. So we want to calm that down, because we don't want the calves to be so tonic, so active. So we're not overusing them in day-to-day life and activities. So again, what we're doing, we're using the foam roller as a bit like a dimmer switch. We're trying to get that light bulb just to kind of turn down a little bit. So later on, we can get the other muscles which are underactive, which there's not much, it's quite low on that dimmer switch, and we're going to try and turn it up. So again, we're just trying to calm those muscles down a bit. That's the other thing that's happening when we do this. So again, once I've found that spot, once I've found that nodule on there, I'm just going to hold it there. And again, as I was saying, if it's too much pressure, again, nothing's going to happen. We're just going to push away. So what's going to happen is we want it to be fairly uncomfortable. If I was to say 1 was nothing and 10 was unbearable, 10 we're just going to jump off. I need to be about 5 or a 6. So it's like, oh yeah, I can feel that. It's a bit tender, it's a bit uncomfortable, but I can manage it. And relaxation is the key word. I can relax into it. You should be able to hold it all day. If you can't, then it's too much. If you can't really feel it, then we need more pressure. Then it might be that just having my leg there isn't enough. Maybe I need this on top. Maybe I need to put the other leg on there. And again, once I get it, once I've got that spot, I just hold it, I just wait. And again, it's usually around about a minute. It might be slightly less, might be slightly longer. But if it was a feeling like a 5 or a 6, it should go down to a 1 or a 2, or it might completely go away. And that's what we're looking for. That's what we're doing. When we're using the foam roller, or the massage ball, or the massage gun, that's what we're looking for. We're only using it on muscles that we've assessed as being short. So muscles that are tight, muscles that are overactive. We're not using on anything else. They probably wondering, how do I know that? Well, the best way to find that out, if you are getting feelings of tightness, some little pains and aches, see a professional, have them do a movement evaluation or movement assessment, and they can tell you which muscles are in that shortened or overactive state. And then that's when, again, if I was doing up the patient, that's when I'll then say, right, okay, part of your home exercise plan, I'm going to get to do, say, I've assessed someone, their calves are really tight, they're a runner, they work at a desk. Okay, this is what we're going to do as part of your treatment plan. This is going to be part of your warm-up. This is what you're going to do, and this is how you're going to use it. So that's what we're doing it for. If a muscle was already underactive, was too underactive, so say my shin muscles are getting long, I'm not going to put the foam roller on them because I don't want to dim them down anymore. They're already underactive. There's not as much activity going into them from the brain as we would like, and I don't want to make it worse. I don't want less activity, I want more activity out of them, and we get more activity out of them when we strengthen those muscles later on in the warm-up. But for now, we're just focusing on turning down those overactive muscles. So again, we're only using on muscles that we've assessed as short and overactive. So, and that's it, nothing else. Because if we do, if we do it on the opposite, we can start to get we could exacerbate dysfunction, we could make things worse, we could get a decrease in performance. And that's, I think, where some of the criticisms are coming on this. There has been some research showing that that they have decreased performance, but from what I can tell, from what I've seen in those studies, there wasn't a movement assessment that took place first. So we don't even know if they were used on the correct muscles. So, but there's plenty of research as well out there to show that these are effective at reducing trigger points and increasing range of motion. So that is there, which is good. Because of course, we only want to prescribe things that we know are evidence-based and proven. So good. But that's the basics, guys. That's it. Now, you're probably wondering, what about the massage ball and the guns? Well, the ball is basically just more pressure. It's lesser surface area, so it's going to go deeper. So over time, and again, it depends, it varies from individual to individual. You might find that this doesn't do it anymore for you. It's not giving you enough pressure, which is a good sign. It means that we're making progress with desensitizing, those trigger points are becoming less of an issue, and they're starting to go away. But you might find, okay, I can't quite get to a 5 or a 6, so yeah, that's when you use something like the ball. It doesn't have to be a massage ball, it could be a tennis ball, it could be one of those ones you throw and the dog goes catch it, take over the park for the dog to go and catch wherever it is. And again, I'll use it the same way. I'll roll through, back and forth, find that tender spot, and I'll just hold it there. The same thing. Okay. Sometimes, again, especially for the muscles of the neck and the back, which we'll do in later videos, you'll see I use this more because you're not going to be able to jam a foam roller into the back of your neck. I wouldn't recommend that. It's probably not going to be very nice. So yeah, this is another option. Good. Yeah, and again, with foam rollers, what ones do I use? What ones do I buy? Well, again, everyone's different. If you're new to doing this, go with something a little bit less aggressive. Something like this. These are quite good. These sorts of styled rollers are good because you've got these gridded patterns. You've got the flatter areas, which are nice to begin with. They're not as hard. And you've got the more focused, more gridded. You've got these little indentures on there, which will push a bit deeper. So you've got that. So again, you've kind of got the best of both worlds there. So if you do want more pressure, you can get them. You can get some other foam rollers which are a little more pointy, I suppose you could say. that are a bit more aggressive. You could use them again if you're desensitized to this. I probably wouldn't start there because it would be very uncomfortable. And there are some foam rollers out there that look horrible. I'll put it mildly. They look like, I don't think anyone would have a good time on them, to be honest. So, yeah, so like anything, sometimes these things get a little crazy, get a little out of hand when they don't need to be. We're not looking for crazy amounts of pressures, ladies and gents. We're just looking for just enough that we can feel it, and that's it. That's all it is. There you guys go. That's it. That's how to use the foam roller, when to use it, how to use it effectively, and like I said, where does it fit in that program? And like I said, it's going to be at the beginning of the program, beginning of your warm up, so it fits. So that's where it fits. That's when we use it. How we use it, as I said, rolling through, finding the tender spot, make sure it's just mild discomfort. And again, it's only used on muscles that have been assessed as being short and overactive. And again, you may need to see a professional to help you determine that. They're the main things. How not to use it, I wouldn't just roll back and forth. I wouldn't be doing this thing. That's not going to be great for treating the trigger points. Now, you could do that if, say, you just run a marathon or a half marathon, or you've just done a sporting event and you just want to get a flush through, just try and get some blood flow back in there, try and, remove some waste production. Yeah, you could use that, that's fine. It's like a self-massager, that's fine. That's for a different purpose. But if I'm trying to increase mobility at a joint, trying to address those knots and trigger points, that's not going to be a very good way, because we're not targeting anything specific, we're not putting pressure on anything specific for long enough, so that's not going to do anything by itself. I have heard some people say that they think they're stretching the muscle out by rolling it. Your muscles aren't dough, unfortunately, so we're not making pizza. No, I'm joking. Unfortunately it doesn't work like that either. It's not going to create any lengthening in that tissue. That's going to come from your stretching techniques, which you do after this. That would follow these. So yeah, again, unless you want to use it as a bit of a self-massage, I wouldn't do that. If you're trying to improve or increase your mobility, I would do it the way I recommended. So there you guys go. And again, just a quick mention: the massage guns work. There's a whole range of benefits with the massage guns, which are great. Definitely for reducing soreness and improving recovery, but they can be used to treat these trigger points the same way. Again, you would just identify those spots and hold it there, and again, make sure it's the same mild pressure. It works a slightly different way, it goes a slightly different pathway, it stimulates some different receptors, but it's essentially the same outcome. I do find as well, and there's research to show that you do get some better releases, and they're actually quicker as well. So if you've got a massage gun and you feel comfortable using them, you can use them as well. It will do the same sort of thing, same sort of outcome. I just think you just get a little bit more bang for your buck with the massage gun as well. But again, can all be used for the same thing. Okay, so there you guys go. That's it. Hopefully that's cleared up some confusion, giving you a little bit of a background beyond the physiology of that without going too in depth. Hopefully that made sense. Again, on how to use these, when to use it, why we use it, when we wouldn't use it. And again, hopefully that's been really helpful. Hope that clears up some confusion. And like I said, if you have got some short muscles, and again, you've got some muscles that are type, start using it. Use it the way I said, see what happens. There's going to be plenty of videos. We've already got some up there. There's going to be more coming on for all different joints of the body, different areas of the body, and how to do the release techniques on those muscles. So they will be coming. But again, if you're not sure on how to use these, or you're getting a little bit stuck, you can always come back to this video and watch this, and we'll go through the instructions again. There you guys go. Hopefully you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, or just get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to answer any questions that you have. Thanks for watching again. Take care, and I'll see you soon.